Welcome to Attune Magazine Radio. Hello, welcome to Attune Magazine Radio. I'm Nale, and today our show is Dreamwork and Tarot with Katrina Wynne. Katrina is a professional transformative tarot consultant, teacher, and writer with over 40 years of tarot experience. Actually got to meet her in 2012 at Reader's Studio, so I'm looking forward to our interview today. Please welcome Katrina Wynne to Attune Magazine Radio. Hi, Katrina. How are you today?
Hey, Mary. How are you? I'm actually so excited about this.
Me too. I was saying, what was it, 2012, I think, at Reader's Studio, I actually got to meet you.
That was my first Reader's Studio. Yeah.
Mine too, yeah. So, and it was kind of a very special year for me because I was so sick, and I said, you know what, I'm going anyway. So, and you were one of the very first people I talked to, so I remember that.
Oh, that is so cool. That was that was part of my tarot tour that year. So I was on the East Coast for something like 3 weeks. I went to Boston and went to D.C., and then I came back up to New York. I even went out to Woodstock a little bit. And so it ended with Reader's Studio, and it was so exciting. And, of course, I've been back since then, and I hope to return again. But it's so, it's hard because I'm on the West Coast, I'm out here in Oregon. In fact, those who know me know that I actually live out in the woods. So going to the big city can be fun, but it's a big ordeal.
Oh, my. Well, that's great. I'm always envious of people who get to travel all the time because it's just, what an adventure every time you step out. So.
Total adventure. But I have to admit that it is not something I do all the time, other than traveling to Portland, where I teach a few times a year at New Renaissance Bookstore, and if I happen to be doing some private classes and sessions. But I just have made this commitment, and it's pretty much a 10-year commitment, and I'm right in the middle of it, where I commit to go and travel and do my little tarot tour each year. And when I do, I hit a lot of meetup groups, and I end up usually teaching at a conference or a few sometimes, and then I try to reach out to communities I haven't been to, because I like to meet people in person. We have all these wonderful friends and acquaintances on things like Facebook and other social media, but to actually meet people and to really feel their energy and to exchange, of course, means so much more.
Absolutely. All right, can you tell us a little bit about where we can find you, your website, and kind of what you offer there, and a little bit about your background so we kind of just get to know you in your own words?
Yeah, who is this Katrina Wynne character? Well, let's see here, because, it's a great question because I'm kind of like two people. In reality, I'm this little forest mystic who's been living in the Pacific Northwest for over 25 years, and which is beautiful because I made this really nice connection with Portland and meeting wonderful tarot people there and really spreading the gospel of tarot for the last, I think, 23 years I've been teaching in Portland. But then with the sort of like I'm such an introvert, I really had to be pushed out to start reaching out to people through the internet, and I've had my website since 1995 or 96. It's called tarotcounseling.org, and it tells you a lot about the flavor of my style and what I am promoting in the world, because even though I honor and love all styles, since my background is in counseling, psychology, and psychotherapy, I really want to bring another dimension to our work with tarot and oracles that honors ourselves as well as our clients and brings in more skills and awareness. So people can find me at tarotcounseling.org, not .com, but .org. Also, I have a blog post where, it's not just tarot. Sometimes I'll put in things about tarot, sometimes I'll put in personal things, and sometimes I'll put in somewhat political things because I am an environmentalist, I'm a forester, and I do really truly care about the health of the planet and each one of us as part of that planet, and that's called mysacredjourney.org. And I have a variety of other things I do, too. We can talk about those at the end of the show. But I think those are the main things that people know me for, is the tarot counseling work, the transformative work, and more that what some people might call shamanic, kind of digging much more deeply into a person and doing very soulful work. But I know today we're here to talk about something that kind of, to me, really truly dovetails with tarot, which is dream work, right?
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite topics.
So, that's great. That's one of your favorite topics?
Yes. So I was really happy to be able to talk about this with you. So.
Well, it was so cool when you put out the call on Facebook, and I responded because, of course, dream work is very near and dear to my heart, especially in my training, especially as a psychotherapist, because, I got my master's degree through Antioch University, but actually before I even went there, I had initiated my journey of training with Arnold and Amy Mindell. And Dr. Arnold Mindell is the person who developed process-oriented psychology, which is now just called process work, originally called dream body work. And he himself had studied at the Jung Institute, so it has a very strong Jungian influence. So when I approach dream work, which I've done, of course, many of us have, I've done it my whole life, and I've kept dream journals and things like that because they communicate with me. And what Jungian psychology did is really create more of a communication and an understanding of dreams. So you don't just interpret dreams, but you truly understand them as an aspect of yourself. Should I go a little more detail about that and then tie it in with tarot?
Sure, absolutely. I'm all ears, and I know everyone else is too.
Yay!
Yes.
All right, bring out ears, folks. So, now I can't talk about all of Jungian psychology, but I will talk about this one part and how it particularly, to me, relates to our work with tarot. So what I love about Jungian perspective on dream work is that our dreaming mind, or our dreaming awareness, really truly taps into other levels of consciousness, right? So, for instance, Jung would use the term collective consciousness or the unconscious, and somehow when we, and then I'm going to bring some modern psychology and sort of neuro science into this as well. And I do talk about this in great detail in one of my classes that I teach, and I've got it recorded on Global Spiritual Studies. But basically, when we relax into different brain waves, and this is what we do with Tarot too, by the way, is we drop out of our everyday consensus reality awareness, and we're able to tap into a much broader, more symbolic realm. So when we have our dreams, for instance, the symbols that show up to us, and by the way, dreams are not always visual. I mean, a lot of people assume that if you don't have a visual dream, that you're not actually dreaming. But the truth of the matter is, dreams are not just visual. They're also, maybe you could hear things. You may feel things. You can move things. For instance, you see a little dog having a puppy dream, and you see its legs moving, right? And sometimes people do that too. Our legs will move, or we'll talk in our sleep, or whatever. So that's all part of our dreaming. They don't have to be visual. But when we're in that other realm, from a Jungian point of view, all the different aspects of the dream are part of our own psyche. So, for instance, when I'm in the dream, I have my let's say my primary identity. I may look like Katrina walking down a street. I identify with this image and the thoughts and the perspective of Katrina. So that's my primary conscious occupied identity. But from a Jungian point of view, every aspect of the dream is an aspect of myself. And here's the key: if you're really looking for healing and transformational work, you want to identify what aspects of the dream are either the most difficult for you, like a character or an event, or the thing that's the least like you. It doesn't have to be difficult. It could be actually something very beautiful and profound. But if you go right to that thing and you bring more of your awareness to it, that's the thing that's the least conscious for you. You see? That's the thing that you're the least identified with. And so then you can create this dance of awareness between what we might call those two parts. So let me bring this down to an example. So let's say, I had a dream last night. That's right. Or it was the night before, and I wrote down in my dream journal, which I keep next to my bed, by the way. It's usually a good idea if you're going to keep a dream journal to write down, maybe not the whole dream. I have epic dreams. If I were a film writer, I would have no lack of resources for ideas, but fortunately I really don't want to go down that road. But what I'll do is I'll take what was the juiciest part of the dream and I'll write that down. I'll write down the most difficult part of the dream. And I'll write down not just the story or the sequence of events, but I'll also write in things like, well, what was my feeling state in that dream? For instance, was I feeling anxious? Was I feeling happy or sad? And then, as I'm writing the dream in my waking state, I might say, yeah, but you know what? In my waking state, I'm appalled. Or in my waking state, I'm really scared. So, for instance, I could have a very peaceful feeling in that dream, and yet writing it, I could feel really anxious. So it's very interesting to note, again, what is my primary identity, which is me writing the dream. And the secondary part would be, yeah, but what was going on in the dream? And how can I learn from that? Because, again, from Jungian perspective, you may not know so much about Jungian psychology, but one of the really key stones of Jungian psychology is this idea of integration and the idea that all these different parts are parts of ourselves that we may not recognize. And that's where we get this whole idea of the shadow. The shadow are those parts that we project onto other people, places, and things because we don't quite identify with them. And the distinction I'd like to make, and I hope I'm not covering this too quickly for people, but the distinction I would like to make is that there's the essence of something, and then there's the manifestation of it. So what do I mean by that? And I will come back to that example, by the way. So, for instance, let's say I'm having this dream, and the dream, now I'm going to give a really extreme example. I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you, but let's say in the dream I actually, let's say, hit somebody or I kill somebody. Now, in the dream, it seemed like the perfectly natural, normal thing to do. But in my waking consciousness, I could say, whoa, why did you do that? That is so weird. I would never do that. But guess what? There's the behavior, and then there's the energy or the essence behind it. So let's say in the dream, the reason I killed this person is because they had been chasing me and my family and wanted to kill us. And I had maybe had a sequence of dreams to where I kept running. I kept hiding. And then finally I just turned around and said, you know what? I'm going to kill them. And then I don't have those dreams anymore. So, in essence, what I did in the dream is I no longer identified as being the victim. And I'm not necessarily a perpetrator, but I picked up the energy and the power of the perpetrator, and I was able to embody it. So what I did wasn't important. The way I did it, the fact that I got in touch with a power I didn't know I had, that I was no longer afraid, that I was able to be powerful and, if necessary, forceful. So me, in my waking life, needs to embody that power. It doesn't mean I need to act that out. It doesn't mean I need to create that kind of behavior in the world. But it does mean, wow, if I could walk through the world with that kind of confidence, chances are I will not be victimized, you see, because I will not feel like a victim, and I will not, and I don't want to make this sound too, I'm going to be very careful about the way I say this, but let's just say I'm not going to attract certain elements. They will be detracted from me just by the way I carry myself and my energy, and I have found that to be true. So that's some of the interesting stuff about dream work. If we really truly work with our dreams, we can start identifying these elements that are difficult for us because they really are hidden powers. Our hidden power could also be to be the most loving, gracious, compassionate person in the world. You could have a dream about somebody who's so loving, or maybe they want to make love with you, and you're in your waking life you go, whoa, I wish I had a lover like that, right? Well, why not be that lover? Why not be that essence? Why not be that person who's sensual and loving and caring and maybe even intimate and tactile, more, huggy with people? Maybe that's something that's really far from your day-to-day identity, the not I, we might say. The more you get in touch with the not I and bring it into the I-ness, the me-ness, the more individuated and complete you are as a human being. Does that make sense, or do I need to explain any more? What do you think, Mary?
Oh, absolutely. I just sat back in my chair. I was like, wow, this is so cool.
Yes. So now,
I love that everyone people tend to think of dreams as some kind of literal message, and I think you've done a great job of explaining that, it's not always literally you killed someone or literally you got ran over by a car or whatever. So I love how you explained that, so thank you.
And here's the really wild part, Mary, and this is what I love about my work with the Mandels. And because basically Arnie Mandel picked up the work from his Jungian studies at the Institute into a whole nother level. So Jung was very focused on dreams. And if Jung had lived longer, this was definitely the direction he was going in. So we do want to give him credit for this. But so Jung, in his lifetime, did an amazing, massive amount of study and writing, and was able to bring these awarenesses, even including language and words, into our everyday vernacular, like archetypes and shadow. But his focus during his lifetime was mostly on the sleeping dreaming. But what Arnie Mandel was able to do is bring it into our waking awareness. In fact, my favorite dream book is his book, and he calls it Dreaming While Awake. And what he's helping us see is that even in our waking life, there's dreaming all around us. And we are part of that dream. And we can use the same skills that we use from our Jungian studies in terms of focusing on our sleeping dreams into our everyday life. And so now here's the connection I'm making, Mary. If you can have a literal dream, meaning the thing that you dreamed came true in life, often we think of that as a prophetic dream. Right. But if you think of it in terms of this kind of symbolic relationship, it doesn't matter if it happens literally or not. The energy is in your day-to-day life. And you may not have that big event happen that you dreamed literally, but it may be happening in small situations, you see. So, for instance, let's go back to that really challenging dream about killing somebody. So, since that's the example I made. So let's say in this dream, I had a prophetic dream that I'm going to kill this person. But in my waking life, I don't know that person. I don't want to kill anybody. But I do realize I'm really maybe feeling victimized by something in life, And so maybe, let's say it's political, because I've been going through this a lot lately. So let's say there's something political going on, and there's some really disturbing things going on the political realm. And so what I might do is, instead of going, oh, gee, I'm just a victim and there's nothing I can do, I might turn around and write a letter to the president or write a letter to my representatives in government. And that means I've picked up that energy and I no longer feel like a victim. I feel like an active force or an activist in the world. So you can see how it doesn't have to be literal, but it can be literal. And if it's literal, it's still asking you to tap into the same energy, but it's not telling you to perform a specific behavior. Can you understand that distinction?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And now I want to tie this in with tarot, because that's the same way I look at tarot. You go back to the dream world. Dream world has a plethora of books, what I call recipe books. And they say, well, if you dream this symbol, then it means this. If there's a tree in your dream, it means this. If there's a dog in your dream, it means that. Well, guess what? People do that with tarot. You see, they take it very literally. And that would be the distinction from my work and the things that I teach my students is that, yeah, sure, go ahead and study the historical and the traditional meaning of the cards because that was the intention and why that particular creator put those symbols on that piece of paper. But modern psychology and a psychotherapeutic and sort of a psycho-spiritual point of view says, yeah, but guess what? You don't always need to take it literally because there's usually something bigger going on. And why not test those waters as well? So, for instance, if I get the death card in the tarot, sure, it could literally mean death, but even death itself is symbolic, you see? So I've worked with clients who were on the verge of dying, and the death card did come up. And so I'm not going to shy away from the topic of death, but I'm not going to stay on what I consider to be the very narrow topic of life or death as if it's a binary this or that, good or bad kind of thing. I don't even give it a value judgment. I just say, hey, let's explore death and find out more about what it means symbolically to that person. And I'm not going to project my ideas about it either. So that kind of gets closer to the way I bring in my dream awareness into my working with the tarot.
Oh, awesome. Great. I love the way you do that. That makes complete sense to me. So, absolutely. Let me ask you real quick. I know you're doing really well with this topic, but I'm curious, when you have a client that seeks out your services dealing with their dreams, does it tend to be people who are having recurring nightmares that come to you more often, or not?
You know, that's an interesting question because keep in mind I have a counseling practice as well as a tarot practice. And people have asked me often, do I blend the two together? And I actually, for the most part, keep them relatively separate, and you can read more about it on my website. I have an article about it. So let's say a counseling client comes to me, and they have had a repetitive dream. I am more likely to find people with those kinds of issues come to me in my counseling practice. And it's true. Often it'll be really disturbing, chronic nightmares. And I have one client right now I've been working with for 3 or 4 years, and we were very successful in pretty much eliminating these disturbing dreams that they'd had most of their adult life. And now we've gone on to the healing of it, why they were having those disturbing dreams. And usually because there's a door that opens there, and when you're able, like I said, to take on the energy that was so opposite you and then to own it more and more, that for some people they can grasp it right away and then pick it up and move with it. Other people it takes more time. And that's why even with tarot, if somebody were to come to me, and I do offer dream work when I'm working in a tarot setting, for instance. People can come in and do a little 30-minute dream analysis session. And in that 30-minute session, this is not someone I have an ongoing relationship with. And that's the difference between counseling and doing a tarot or a little dream session. And so all we can do is begin to open that door of awareness. And then at that point, I might say, hey, you would really benefit from continuing what you've opened here, and I recommend that you work with your counselor or et cetera, make a referral, whatever. So in terms of what type of dreams people come with, either they had a really fresh dream that they were really curious about or it was very disturbing, or like you said, they could have a repetitive dream. And by repetitive dream, I mean they keep having the same dream over and over again. It doesn't really complete itself. Or they have it over and over again. It changes a little bit, but it's pretty much the same dream. And sometimes the same dream can show up with completely different characters, but the story is the same and the energies are the same.
Interesting. Okay. I like that.
Yeah, and so to me, dream work is like working with a person's personal inner tarot cards, you see, because each character in the dream, each energy in the dream, each symbol in the dream is something that is in their deck. and so they get to play with their own inner deck of cards, their own sort of soul cards, and it's really important to identify and get to know them just as much as we would want to use tarot cards. And so that's why the two are so interchangeable. You could do work. I love the way James Wells does this, and a few other people. And I do this too sometimes, where you can work with people with a tarot deck. You pull out the deck and you use it a little bit like sand play work. And so sand play work, again, is very Jungian influenced, and it's where each card can represent, in sand playing you actually have little figurines, and they're in a sandbox. And so you can recreate dreams or situations, but you get to have more of an objective point of view because you're out here. It's almost like you're God playing with these little characters. So you get to have this overview, so it distance yourself from it. And those little characters can play off of each other and play with each other. You can do the same thing with the tarot cards. You spread your cards out face up, and then you can ask your client, well, can you pick anywhere from, maybe 1 to 3 cards that represent this difficult thing for you? All right, now pick 1 to 3 cards that represent what you'd like to have happen in this situation, or how you'd like to be in this situation. And so then the cards themselves can play off of each other. But here's the key. It's not about interpreting the cards, you see. It's about exploring and experiencing the cards.
Ah, okay. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, that makes sense. Excuse me, I'm having a terrible voice issue here today.
That's all right. I'll just keep going. I just didn't want to talk your ear off.
Oh, no, that's fine. I keep muting myself because first I sneeze and then I cough and.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Well, so that touches upon something. So let's go back to the Dreamwork for a moment. Sure. So when Arnie, and I do call him Arnie because he's been my teacher for over 25 years, and he's a delightful person. He asked everybody to call him Arnie. So Arnold Mandel. So when Arnie started his work, he was at the Jung Institute, and he actually started exploring his own body symptoms. And it was through his work with his body symptoms that he started making this connection between the dreaming and the body. So, for instance, he says, well, what if I treated my symptom as if it was one of these difficult characters in my dream? Because it's creating a difficulty in my life. I'm unhappy with this. I don't identify with it. And that's why he first called it dream body work, because he realized the body itself was dreaming all the time. So it wasn't even focused on the outside world at that point. It was really truly inner work, what we call now. And in fact, I want to comment that symbols and dreaming and tarot cards can represent our inner or interpsychic awareness. It can represent our relationships or interpersonal relationships. It can also be connected with a group, community, global, or the collective, or the universe. And so even the tarot readings can go into all those levels. Dreams certainly touch upon all those levels. So when you're having a dream, sometimes the dream, and this kind of goes into the prophetic dreams, but a dream itself sometimes is not for that individual, but it's for the collective. I mean, some people have heard of Black Elk and his vision. And he was a visionary, and he had a huge dream, and his people were wise enough to understand that when he had that dream, it really truly was a message not only for them, but really it was a message for the world. And many of us are still learning from that message. So sometimes we have dreams, and it's about our interpsychic life, but sometimes it really is for the collective, and it's meant to be shared. Or, and here's the really cool thing, and I love the way Process Work has worked on this, is that if you cannot complete or work on something on the, let's say, relationship level, let's say you're having a relationship difficulty, you can switch channels or you can switch levels. And so you can turn it into an inner psychic exploration, because remember, that person on the outside and their difficulty is really an aspect of yourself that maybe you need to work on with yourself, and maybe you can complete it inside. So back to your body symptoms. So when you have a body symptom, such as a cough or a sniffle or a cold, I mean, sure, yeah, there's a biological explanation for that, but you can also work on it on the symbolic level. And so you start, I can't go into this too deeply, but I'll just have a little fun with this if this is okay, Mary. Is that right if I use you for example? Okay.
Absolutely.
So let's say I wanted to work on my sniveling, and let's say in my case, oh, I can't speak, my throat feels sore, or my nose is clogged, and I feel goopy. And so then I might go, well, let me find out more about this goopiness. What's it like to be goopy? And so I notice as I'm doing this, my body's kind of rolling over. I feel like a big glob, and I'm going to start moving around like I'm a big, round, puffy thing. But I'm also a little bit sore. And I really want to experience this from the inside out, because here's the key, is rather than thinking of it as my enemy and something I want to get rid of, why not get to know it and invite its lesson into my life? Because there might be other areas of my life where I need that energy. Maybe I need to be a little more globby. Maybe I need to be, I notice when I'm globby and sore, I want to retreat from the world. I don't want to be such a social activist. I want to nurture myself, and I want to be nurtured. I want to be cared for. I want mommy to bring me my lemon, honey, hot water or something. So if you go and you take it further and further, and what we call dreaming into it, it will finally take you to a whole different awareness than what you started with. And then it helps you make better decisions, because you might go, you know what? I might say, I'm too active. Oh, my God, I'm taking care of too many outside people, and I really need to take better care of myself right now. I really need to nurture myself. I really need to appreciate myself, and I haven't been doing that enough for myself. So it may not make my cold go away, but it may make my cold more tolerable.
Awesome advice. I like that idea. Instead of just thinking, oh, I can't talk, or yeah, I like it.
Yeah, because it could be your body trying to communicate with you. It may be giving you a completely different message.
Oh, I can't wait to play with that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's why even with the tarot cards, I personally prefer to move away from these value judgments like, well, this is good and that is bad. Now, I want to make an exception here. I do truly understand that there are oracles such as the Petit Lenormand, or some people call it Lenormand. And it does very clearly say there's good cards and there's bad cards, etc. Beautiful. That's the way that system was designed. Work with it. That's fine. If you want to work with something in a more dreamlike way, in a more transformative way, then pick an oracle that allows that for you. Like Tarot, for instance, is truly my go-to for that. If I want something just really literal and not figurative, I go to the Lenormand, right? So there's different tools for that. It's kind of like I think somebody has something on the Attune magazine that says, there's a stone for that.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm going to say there's an oracle for that.
Right. No, that's a good point. Don't be stuck on one method. Try different things. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
And it's not to say you can't do that with the Lenormand, by the way. It's just not the way it was designed or intended. But hey, have fun. Whatever works for you.
Right. That is probably one of those decks that I truly think is straight up fortune telling, in your face, no doubt about it, matter of fact. There it is.
So true. So anyway, if any of your listeners would like to learn more about my teachings on Dreamwork, can I share a resource?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So I have had the wonderful honor, and I've had a lot of fun recording webinars with Global Spiritual Studies, and that's globalspiritualstudies.com. And Linda Morrison is a delight to work with. And what it's done for me is I've had people for years and years and years. I would get emails and phone calls from people, and they say, gosh, are you ever going to be in my neck of the woods? I would really like to study with you. And of course, I truly live in the woods here, so it does take some traveling. And I kept getting these requests over and over again to offer something on the internet or something more global. So I finally heard the call, which is how I do just about everything I do. I hear the call, I go, okay, I'll do this. And I actually created the Professional Tarot Consulting Certificate course, which takes it's really a more advanced course. I also have a beginning level 3-class recording that I did as well on global spiritual studies. I'll talk about that in a moment. But within that course, one of the classes is called Dreamwork in Readings, and it's part of the Advanced Tarot Skills section. So what's really cool about the way I designed this course is that there's 8 classes, but they're broken into 4 different pairs, and each one is a different little let's say, well, when you go to Global Spiritual Studies, you can purchase these individually. Like one's called Intermediate Tarot Reading, there's Developing Your Practice, and there's also Advanced Tarot Metaphysics, because there are things like astrology, alchemy, and Kabbalah. But for the Advanced Tarot Skills pairing, I have the Power of Symbolism and Dreamwork and Readings, and it really can stand alone, and you can purchase it as a standalone. But here's the really cool thing. If you want to go through the entire course, I actually have a certificate program where I take people through all 8 of these classes. We have a Facebook secret page where all the students get to meet each other. They get to pair up and work on exercises together. I'm there to supervise. I have weekly discussion topics. I have recommended readings and as well as required readings. And people have an opportunity to really develop their own personal style, because I'm not a cookie cutter kind of teacher. I don't expect everybody to do things the way I do them or interpret things, because this is really all about discovering your own gifts and developing your own practice. And whether you're a tarot person or an oracle person or anything else you might be working with, there's really something in here that you can learn from and develop deeper skills from. I guarantee you that. And of course, there's lots of handouts too. So if you're just interested in the dream work, then I suggest that you look for Advanced Tarot-Skills. But if you're interested in the entire course, there's one price for the entire course, and not only does it include all these classes that are already recorded, but it also includes the handouts, the book list, the online Facebook group, or some people like to work privately through email. I do that too. And at the end, you get a certificate and a 30-minute mentoring session with me, because that's something I would say in the tarot world I'm particularly good at, is mentoring, because I know how to really listen and tune into people's personal gifts and to bring them out even further.
Awesome. I love that you have developed ways to teach that are, you give access to your teachings to so many people this way. That's fantastic. I love when people say they're involved in all these things. So.
And it's fun for me. I have students all over the world now. That's so cool. I've had students from China and Japan, and I have somebody right now that's from Lithuania, and from Vietnam, and of course places like Australia and Canada and various countries in South America, India. So it's just such a wonderful way of not only me being in touch with people all over the world, but my students meeting each other and having those opportunities. So I love it. I love the Internet. I mean, we couldn't be doing this without it, right, Mary?
Absolutely. Yes, it is definitely one of those things that I'm grateful for every single day. So, yes.
Yeah. And a really fun thing, I think, since I'm on the topic, I do want to promote this because, let me see, this program is airing on what date?
Oh, it will be this Friday coming up here.
Yeah. So this should be January the 16th.
Yes, I'm sorry. Mental block.
Right. That's right. So Tuesday the 20th, I'm actually teaching a live webinar. And that doesn't happen too often now. I only do them about 2 times a year, or maybe 3. And this one coming up is a remake and an update of my very, very most popular class called The Sacred Journey of Your Soul Through the Major Arcana of the Tarot. And what I do is I take my students through each card in the Major Arcana, but as a sequence and a story of our own journey. And it's very much aligned with Jungian values and perspectives, as well as the work of Joseph Campbell in The Hero's Journey. And I cover each card from the the journey that we take individually as our own little personalities, but also our spiritual journey. And I take a very psycho-spiritual approach and bring more psychological elements into it and developmental elements. So when you go back and you look at your major arcana cards, it'll truly broaden the way you see not what they are individually, but what they represent on a person's life journey. So I think it's a fascinating class. It has wonderful handouts. And again, this is one of the few opportunities to be part of a live class. And here's the cool bonus that I'm offering is that everybody who signs up for the live webinar automatically gets the other two classes in my Beginning Tarot class. And so you'll get the other two recordings, which covers the minor arcana as well as an overview. And when you get the minor arcana class, you'll see my first introduction to this idea that we're talking about with the Dreamwork and how it connects with Tarot. And it helps you understand how the major and the minor arcana cards really tie into these different levels of consciousness and awareness. So it's very exciting. It's not the way you've ever probably heard it taught before, and yet it completely complements wherever a person may be coming with their own knowing about Tarot. And I think it's appropriate for not only beginners but also advanced people.
Wow, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so that
if you send me the links to
sure.
these things, I will make sure they get on the website so that people can find it quickly and everybody go sign up.
Yeah. Thank you. And so now, how much time do we have left?
Oh my goodness, let's see. We have we have lots of time. You're good.
Okay. All right. So I know you had some more questions about dreams, and I don't want to miss that.
Okay. All right. We kind of went over how you did a fantastic job of explaining how dreams can help us in our, to solve problems and face challenges and the healing process. So what would you suggest for someone who, wakes up today and says, I heard that Katrina Wynne and I'm going to start journaling my dreams. How can they get started?
Yes, thank you. I'm so glad you asked that. So let's say you haven't started a dream journal or you want to do it more effectively. There's two great ways I'm going to recommend the journal itself. You can go for your traditional paperback book, which means, there's these blank books you can get. I like the ones with lines in them so I can write in a straight line. But you might want blank pages so you can doodle and create drawings, because when you're recording your dreams aren't just words, right? You can draw pictures, you can have colors. And so sometimes people like those very open, arty kind of books. But it's important, I think, to have a separate book just for your dreams. But it's up to you, whatever you do. Another fun thing you can do these days, for instance, I have an iPad, and there's some really cool journaling apps where you have a password and everything, and so nobody else can see what you've written. And you can put pictures in there as well. So that's another sort of modern way of journaling. And each has advantages and disadvantages, obviously. Now, the other really, really key thing is when you wake up from your dreaming, keep in mind you're shifting your brain waves and you're moving from one state to another state of awareness and consciousness. So in order to maintain the awareness of your dreaming while you're still in that dream state, here's some really cool suggestions. Try not to move your body if you can. In other words, if you can get to that journal or that iPad or whatever without having to move your body position, that's great, because then, remember, your body itself is part of the dreaming, and it'll give you easier access. Because the opposite, the thing you don't want to do, is get up, go to the bathroom, maybe have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you do in the morning, and then try to remember your dream, because it's like a little poof. It disappears, right? Or you don't remember as much of it. So the other thing is, let's say if you're sleeping with somebody, you don't want to disturb them. It's nice to have maybe a little bitty light for your book. Or if you have your iPad, it has its own light. And so that way you don't have to disturb them. But let's say once they're awake or somebody in your household is available, if you really want to explore a dream, it helps to start telling them about the dream, because you'd be surprised how much more comes to your memory as you start telling the story of the dream. And keep in mind what I said before is as you're writing down that dream, you want to write down, just hit the hot spots. And here's the more psychologically skilled way of doing it. Notice the identity in the dream. In other words, where was I in the dream? And then start noticing the not I's. And what I do is I might even, if I'm working with a client and they tell me their dream, I'm jotting it down, and then I go back and they help me identify the major parts for them, the thing that they're the most identified with, the things they're the least identified with, what was the most exciting or the most disturbing, etc., or different, what was the most different. And we circle those things, and so we can come up with as many as 4 different aspects or characters in the dream. And keep in mind, characters aren't just people. Characters can be an energy or a situation or a location. It could be a bird, it could be a mountain. And then you start stepping into the dream from the different roles. We can call them roles as well. So you can step into those different roles and then go back into the dream from that unique perspective. So what is it like to be the mountain in the dream while this thing is happening? What's it like to be that bird? And to experience the dream from its point of view. So each one of those aspects, from a Jungian point of view, is an aspect of yourself. It's a role within yourself that wants more of your conscious awareness. So that's the way I would start working with those dreams. And then here's another cool thing you can do. And this is the same thing I recommend when people do tarot journaling too, is to go out into your world in that day or night, whatever your world is, and then notice the dream elements in your waking life. Is there a mountain? Is there a bird? Or is there something that is similar to the energy of that bird or that mountain? Is there something that maybe is very still with snow on top? Or is there something that's flying above and tweeting and getting an overview of things? And that's how you start integrating the energy and the symbolism of that dream in your day-to-day life.
That is fantastic advice. And you know what? I'm listening to you and I'm going, wow, I never thought of that. Wow, I never thought of this. So I'm learning. I love it.
I know. Well, I love it when people contact me and want to work on dreams. I mean, as much as I love tarot, I really love working with dreams because it's one of the quickest, easiest, and most personal ways for people to tap into their own hidden powers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me, what else do you have coming up on your very busy schedule?
It is the schedule, okay. And it's remember I was saying before, I'm like 2 people. One is this introvert that just likes to be in my little forest here, and then the other part is the one that has made this real commitment to the world to go out and teach and be available, which I love too, by the way. It's just remember when I was talking about those dream characters? It's the not I. It's the thing I'm not as identified with. But I'm doing it pretty well, so thank you for letting me practice. But
absolutely.
So the introverted me is in the process. I've got 3 books in the works, and one of them I've made a commitment. I really want to finish it this spring. And I have I live in Oregon. I live out in the woods on the Oregon coast, and on the back of my property, I have my yurt, which I have just transformed. Finally, it's like this dreaming that's come into reality. I've transformed it into my tarot temple. I've moved all my tarot books out there. Next summer, I'll probably even move my tarot cards out there. I gotta make sure it's nice dry first, but and so. I'm there working on my latest little book, and my other book I've been working on for years, and that one I just keep putting it on the back burner. I don't know why, but it's halfway written. And then I have a third book I'm working on what most people consider as tarot numerology, but I have a unique approach to it, so that one's in the works too. But the one I'm working on this winter is very related to a class I'm going to be teaching at the Northwest Tarot Symposium, which is the first weekend of March, and it's going to be in Portland, Oregon. Of course, I would love people to come and If you want to find out more about it, of course, it's on Facebook. They have a website. It's the Northwest Tarot Symposium in Portland, Oregon. And Sunday, I'm doing a class on, drumroll, now remember, I'm a dream worker and I'm totally into symbolism. So it's the sexual symbols and meaning in tarot.
Oh,
and
wow.
so, yes, because sex itself is not only literal but symbolic. So I'm bringing a lot of my unique awareness of energy and how energy moves. And those of you who are in touch with energy, or you're psychic or sensitive in some way or another, I think you will particularly appreciate my approach to understanding the dynamics of that polarity, which is in us on an internal level as well as an external level. And so that's a very exciting project for me. And that's what I'm doing on the inside. And then on the outside, of course, in March I'm going to come out, actually February I'm going to come out to Portland, because I do teach there about 3 or 4 times a year at New Renaissance Bookshop. And I'll be teaching my, Finding Your Soul Purpose and Path in Life, which isn't a tarot class. It's really about helping people truly align with their deepest, most authentic self and how to bring that out into the world, which is what I'm doing with all my work anyway. I mean, whether it's counseling or tarot, that's something I love to do, and it's something I just continue to do. And then, of course, every summer I have my annual tarot retreat at the Tarot Temple on the back of my property. And it's that one time a year where I actually invite people to come visit my little retreat from the world and to retreat themselves and to treat themselves to a beautiful place in nature by a river surrounded by mountains and beautiful green trees and grass and organic foods. I feed everybody. It's very nourishing, very healthy. And we feed each other through our explorations of tarot and fun exercises and some really, really deep, meaningful work. So that's very, very special to me. And this will be our 19th year here in 2015. And we're going to be celebrating which tarot card? Number 19, the sun. So it's going to be very much focused on happiness and enlightenment and really appreciating being alive. So I am so excited about this. This is truly the culmination of 19 years of offering these retreats.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. While you were talking, I was wondering, I wonder how many people don't want to go home then.
It's true. That's why I've extended it to a 3-day event. It used to be a 2-day event, and I would feed people Saturday night. And finally, people just kept saying, you know what, we want an extra day, and why don't you just feed us the whole time, because this is so great. So I did have to raise the price a little bit, but it was really inexpensive to begin with. But now it includes all meals. There's free camping, or some people like to stay in local motels, or there's other houses and rooms available in the area if you prefer something a little more civilized. But since we're out in nature, people bring their tents. A few people maybe stay in the yurt, and it's just, there's no cell phone service. We're completely removed from the rest of the world. We truly are. It's like just sort of like a stillness in time and totally removed, so where we can replenish ourselves and then come back out with some wonderful, wonderful awarenesses and skills.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, and so you can find tarot retreats on Facebook, or you can just go to my website and look for the tarot retreats there. And sometimes I do offer them in Texas and other places, but the one I've been doing for 19 years is here in Oregon, and it's very, very special.
Wow. All right. That sounds great. I'm relaxed just thinking about it.
Yes. I mean, you know, it's like I can't explain it. It's like you just have to experience it. And that's the way I approach tarot. I don't try to explain tarot. I really invite people to experience it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah, that's the difference between sort of like orthodox and metaphysics, you know, and because to me, when you follow the sort of like the sacred side of anything, whether it's a religion or philosophy, it's really about tapping into the experience of it and allowing that to inform you from the inside out.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, I love your approach, and I am so happy that you could do this with me today. And you're actually going to be one of our featured authors in April.
Hey, I hope to have that book done by then.
Yes, pressure. And you're going to be the cover of the magazine for that month. So.
Oh my gosh, I get to be a cover girl.
Yes. So. Thanks. Oh, I can't wait.
Well, you know what? Speaking of being a cover girl, let me just throw this out really quickly. Sure. I'm also very excited and honored because in the 2015 Tarot Lovers Calendar, have you heard of that?
Yes, I haven't.
I missed July.
You are in there.
I am in there. So if you want to see what I look like, I actually created my own little petite Lenormand cards, and I teach people how to create their own deck using their own images.
Yes, that was fantastic. I love flipping through that calendar, and I got to your page, and I went, oh, I know her. Yes,
and there's even photographs I think that were taken here. Like I think it has the photograph of me on my horse, so of course I'm number one, the rider. Hey.
It's great, and I thought, wow, what a fantastic way to create a deck. So I liked that. So
yeah. Well, there's lots of cool things going on. Of course, I'm even working on my own tarot deck, but that's a secret, and I won't talk about it. And
yes.
And if people want to learn more from me and my co-host Gina Thies, I hope you don't mind promoting another podcast. We complement each other, but we have a podcast called Oracle Soup, and it's really fun, and it's really very educational. So you can go to oraclesoup.org, or you can find us on Facebook. And you can just find me on Facebook, Katrina Wynne, and I love to have tarot friends there. And I also have other groups. I have a closed group for tarot counseling for people who are really seriously interested in that. I also have my Transformative Tarot Counseling service page, so you can keep up with information about what I'm offering and where I am, and articles and podcasts and blog posts and all that stuff I do in social media when I'm not being a total introvert.
I understand that, though, because I'm very much the same that way. I'm kind of, my kids call me the hermit, you know.
See, yes, we can relate.
But, yeah, but you do, there are things that need to be done outside somewhere else, and, so
well,
I think that's
true. You know what was really the turning point for me, Mary? Because I truly remember I can't take my signals from the world, and everything's symbolic. Mm-hmm. So this is what happened: is there was a huge hurricane that hit the U.S. and the Gulf Coast, and it was called Katrina.
Yes.
And I went down to the post office in Little Oyahats, where I live, and right there in the local newspaper, in font I've never seen so large in my life, like took up the whole top of the page, was Katrina. That's all it said was Katrina. Wow. And I took that, I really processed that, and I worked on that, and I went, oh my gosh, that's a signal from the universe saying you got to get out of your little forest mystic closet, girlfriend, and share what you've got with the world, because I'm in my 50s now, and so I'm in the grandmother stage, I'm in the crone years, and it really is our job as the grandmothers and the grandfathers to turn around and share our accumulated wisdom with the younger generations, or with everybody. So it's not just me, it's all of us, but that was the trigger, that was the signal from the universe that I heard, and I decided to get over my shyness or whatever reservations I had and just put it out there.
Well, we're glad you did. So,
thank you.
I'm not happy we had, that there was a hurricane, but I'm happy that, there was a symbol provided so that you could know what to do next with your life. I think that's, I very much live my life that way. So I love to hear people talk about things like that. So
yeah, well, we can't help it. That's what we do with the cards. You can't take things literally. Yes, it's literal, and it's also symbolic.
Right, absolutely. Well, this has been so informative and fun today, and I can't wait I know we'll be talking to you again sometime in April, and any other time you have a topic you want to talk about, you know how to get a hold of me. Here I am. We'll make it happen.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate that open invitation.
Oh, absolutely. So good luck with all your what is it, a live webinar you're doing. Good luck with that. And may the technical gods be good to you that day. Technology. All right. And I will have a full blog post up with everything, all your links, and how people can contact you. So everyone listening, I hope you will go to Katrina's website and blog and podcast. Keep up with her because she's doing great things.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. This is really fun and inspiring for me too, because I, as an introvert, I don't get to talk to people very much, so it's fun talking to you today.
Oh, it's wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
All right, you too, my dear.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, thank you, everyone, for listening to Attune Magazine Radio. You can listen to the show in archives. There'll be an extensive blog post about this on attunemagazine.com so that you can find all the resources and links to keep in touch with Katrina Wynne. So thank you all for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.